don't do this! I'm your sister! No! Please don't kill me! Brought this upon yourself!
A tale of jealousy. They call her witch. They say she has stolen all the love and affection their father gives her. We must kill her, whispered Nessa, the eldest. Let's bury her alive, Corin added coldly. I hate her so much I would do anything to get rid of her, Lyra hissed, her eyes burning with rage. But what they didn't know was this child is no ordinary one. Their decision would shake the entire kingdom. Let's go back to how it all began. The sun blazed mercilessly over the village of Ashara, cracking the red earth beneath its heat. In a modest home lived merchant Augun, a widower who had lost his first wife 7 years ago when their 3 daughters, Nessa, Corin, and Lyra, were barely 3 years old. For years, Augun raised his daughters alone, but loneliness and the weight of his grief drove him to remarry. He wed Adana, a kind but sorrowful woman who longed for a child of her own. For long years passed with no child, and Adana's heart grew heavy with yearning. She prayed desperately for a son to carry her husband's name. One evening, desperate for answers, Adana walked to the sacred river Augun. She knelt by the water's edge, tears streaming down her face as she begged the river goddess for a child, specifically, a son to carry her husband's name. The river shimmered, and from its depths rose the river goddess, draped in silver light. I hear your prayer, Adana, the goddess said, her voice like rushing water. I will grant you a special child who will change your family forever. But know this, the child I give you will be a daughter, not a son. She will carry greatness within her. 9 months later, Adana gave birth to a daughter named Alara. The moment Alara entered the world, the midwives gasped. The baby had impossibly long white hair that wrapped around her tiny body like a silken cocoon, hair as white as fresh snow, unlike anything they had ever seen. When Alara smiled, her hair glowed softly. When she cried, it dimmed to ash grey. As Alara grew, so did her hair. It flowed behind her like a river of moonlight, never needing to be cut. The villagers of Ashara would stop and stare whenever Alara walked through the marketplace of Zoria. Look at her white hair, the elders whispered. The gods have blessed her. She is touched by the divine. But inside her own home, Alara was not seen as blessed. She was seen as a threat. Ilara's 3 stepsisters, now 27 years old, watched her with growing resentment. The stepsisters were beautiful women with fine features and graceful figures, but Ilara's beauty surpassed theirs. Her white hair, her radiant skin, and her gentle spirit made her truly exceptional. Yet their hearts had hardened over the years into bitter stones. Look at her, Nessa whispered one morning as they fetched water from the well, her own dark hair tied back simply. She walks like royalty. Father treats her as if she's made of gold. Stepmother never makes her do the hard work, Corin complained, tucking a strand of her own ordinary black hair behind her ear. She says Alara might trip on that cursed white hair. It's not fair. Lyra, the most vicious of the 3, sneered. Though all 3 sisters were considered beautiful in Ashara, with their smooth skin and fine features, Ilara's ethereal beauty, her luminous white hair, her gentle grace, her radiant presence, made them feel plain by comparison. All the young men in Ashara bring gifts to her doorstep. They should be courting us, not her. Father and stepmother love her more than us, Nessa added bitterly. They give her the largest portions at dinner. They give her the finest cloth. As long as she exists, we'll always be invisible. Then we must make her disappear, Lyra said coldly. Ilara sensed the hostility that filled their home. She tried desperately to win her stepsister's affection. She completed their chores, gave them her jewelry, and spoke to them with kindness. But the more she tried, the more they despised her. One sweltering afternoon, when the sun was so brutal even the lizards hid beneath rocks, Augun was away at the trade routes, and Adana was selling cloth in Zoria marketplace. The 3 stepsisters approached Ilara with smiles as false as fool's gold. Ilara, Nessa said sweetly, yesterday we discovered a hidden grove in the forest. It's filled with white lilies, flowers as pale as your beautiful hair. We thought you might like to weave them into your locks. Ilara's eyes lit up. Really? You found flowers for me? Yes, Corin said, holding up a woven basket. But we must go now, before sunset, or the flowers will close. Trusting her stepsisters, Ilara followed. They walked past the goat pens, beyond the last houses of Ashara, and deep into the thornwood forest. The trees grew thick and gnarled, their branches intertwining overhead like twisted fingers. The air smelled of damp moss and decay. "It's very far," Ilara said nervously, clutching her white hair to keep it from snagging on thorns. "Just a little farther," Lyra said with a cruel laugh. They arrived at a clearing covered in wild grass. In the center was a deep pit, a trap the three stepsisters had spent days digging in secret. "Where are the lilies?" Ilara asked, peering into the darkness. The stepsisters stopped. Their masks of kindness fell away, replaced by masks of rage. "There are no lilies," Nessa snarled. Before Ilara could react, Lyra grabbed her white hair and yanked hard. Ilara screamed. "You think you're special?" Corin shouted, shoving Ilara's shoulder. "Let's see how beautiful you are when you're buried in the dirt." Lyra cried. "Sisters, please." Ilara sobbed. "What have I done wrong? I've shown you nothing but love." "You exist," Nessa spat. "That is your crime." All three stepsisters pushed Ilara hard. She tumbled into the pit, hitting the bottom with a sickening thud. Pain shot through her body. She looked up and saw her stepsisters throwing branches and leaves over the opening to conceal it. "Goodbye, little witch." Lyra called down mockingly. "May the forest spirits take you." The stepsisters returned to Ashara, wailing and crying to anyone who would listen. "A leopard attacked us in the forest." Nessa sobbed. Ilara's long hair tangled in the bushes. She couldn't run. The leopard dragged her away. When Augun and Adana heard the news, they collapsed in anguish. Adana wept so violently she could barely breathe. Augun tore his clothes in grief. In the pit, darkness swallowed Ilara whole. She lay in the cold mud, her white hair matted and filthy. She cried until her throat burned. "Mother! Father! Please help me!" But no one came. Hours passed. Ilara was certain she would die alone in the earth. Then she heard footsteps approaching. "Who's down there?" a deep voice called. Ilara scrambled back against the dirt wall. "Who are you?" she whispered fearfully. "My name is Prince Taiwo," the voice replied. "I'm a hunter from the kingdom of Ireel. Hold on, I'll get you out." A rope dropped into the pit. Ilara grabbed it with trembling hands, and the stranger pulled her up with astonishing strength. When she emerged, she saw a tall, broad-shouldered man dressed in simple hunting leathers. He had kind eyes and a strong, steady presence. "Thank you," Ilara gasped. "You saved my life." Prince Taiwo studied her, the white hair caked in mud, the tear-streaked face, the fear in her eyes. "Who did this to you?" he asked gently. My stepsisters," Ilara confessed, her voice breaking. "They hate me." "Your own family?" Taiwo's face darkened with anger. "That's monstrous." Ilara wiped her tears. "I cannot return home. They will only try to kill me again." Taiwo thought for a moment. "I live in a tower deep in the thornwood. A priest once told me I would find my true love in this forest, so I've been living here as a hunter, waiting. You can stay with me until you're safe." They walked through the forest for nearly an hour. Finally, they reached a towering stone structure, ancient and overgrown with vines. It had no doors and no stairs. "How do we get inside?" Ilara asked. Taiwo smiled. "Watch." He scaled the tower wall with the agility of a leopard, using cracks in the stone as handholds. At the top, he lowered a rope and pulled Ilara up through a narrow window. Inside, the room was simple but clean, filled with woven mats, clay pots, and dried herbs hanging from the ceiling. "You'll be safe here," Taiwo said. "But you must never open the window for anyone except me. When I return each evening, I'll whistle 3 times like this." He demonstrated a distinctive 3-note call, * woo woo wee star. "I understand," Ilara said gratefully. Days turned into weeks. Each morning, Taiwo hunted game and gathered fruit. Each evening, he returned with food and stories. Ilara, in turn, cleaned the tower, prepared meals, and sang songs her mother had taught her. One evening, as moonlight spilled through the window, Taiwo brushed the tangles from Ilara's long white hair with a wooden comb. "Why are you so kind to me?" Ilara asked softly. Taiwo paused. "Because I see who you truly are. Not the girl with magic hair. Not the merchant's daughter. I see a kind soul who deserves love." Ilara's heart swelled. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. But danger was creeping closer. One afternoon, while Ilara was singing at the window, her voice drifted down through the trees. Far below, the three stepsisters were gathering firewood. "Did you hear that?" Corin froze. "I heard singing," Lyra said, narrowing her eyes. "It sounded like her." "Ilara is dead," Nessa insisted, though her voice wavered. "The leopard ate her." "Then who is singing?" Lyra demanded. That voice came from the tower. They stared up at the ancient structure, hidden among the trees. "We should leave," Nessa said nervously. "No," Lyra hissed. "I want to see for myself." Ilara, hearing their voices, peeked out the window. When she saw her stepsisters below, her blood turned to ice. She ducked back inside, her heart pounding. The stepsisters argued for several minutes before finally leaving, suspicious and uneasy. That evening, when Taiwo returned, Ilara told him everything. "They're hunting me," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Taiwo pulled her close. "You're safe here. I won't let anyone harm you." Over the following weeks, Taiwo and Ilara grew inseparable. She mended his clothes. He brought her wildflowers. They talked late into the night, sharing dreams and fears. One night, under the silver glow of the moon, Taiwo took Ilara's hands. "Ilara," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I believe the priest was right. I found my true love, and it's you." Ilara's heart soared. "And I have found mine in you." She leaned forward and kissed him gently. The moment their lips touched, a blinding golden light filled the tower. Ilara gasped as Taiwo's form began to change. His hunting clothes transformed into royal robes embroidered with gold thread. His simple appearance became regal and commanding. What's happening?" Ilara stammered. Taiwo smiled. "Ilara, I am Prince Taiwo of Ireel. A priest prophesied that I would find true love in the thornwood, but only if I lived humbly. I disguised myself as a hunter to fulfill the prophecy. And now, because of your love, the prophecy is complete." Tears of joy streamed down Ilara's face. "Come with me to my kingdom," Taiwo said. "Let me give you the life you deserve, one filled with love and honor." "I want to," Ilara said, "but first, I must return to Ashara. My mother and father believe I'm dead. I need them to know I'm alive." "Then we'll go together," Taiwo promised. "And I will protect you." When Ilara and Prince Taiwo walked into Ashara, the entire village erupted in shock. "Ilara is alive," someone shouted. "The girl with the white hair has returned." Algun and Adana rushed from their home, weeping with joy. They embraced Ilara tightly, unable to believe their eyes. But behind them stood the three stepsisters. Their faces were pale with terror. "How is she alive?" Corin whispered, trembling. "And look at that man," Nessa hissed. "He's dressed like royalty. She survived **and found a prince." Lyra's face twisted with fury. "It's not fair. She fell into a pit and found a kingdom." Prince Taiwo addressed the family. "I am Prince Taiwo of Ireel. Ilara saved my heart, and I intend to take her to my palace as my bride." The stepsisters could barely contain their rage. That night, before Ilara could leave for the palace, the stepsisters crept into her room. Ilara sat by the window, brushing her long white hair, her face glowing with happiness. "Sister," Lyra said, stepping into the room with a dagger hidden behind her back. "We are so sorry for what we did. Please forgive us." Ilara turned, her eyes filled with hope. "Of course I forgive you. I love you." "Let us braid your hair one last time," Nessa said sweetly, "before you leave for your new life." Before Ilara could respond, Lyra lunged forward and hacked off Ilara's white hair with the jagged blade. The beautiful locks fell to the floor like snow. Now you're ugly. Lyra shrieked. Now the prince won't want you. But then, something terrible happened. The severed hair began to writhe and twist. It turned green and scaly, transforming into hundreds of venomous white serpents. The snakes slithered up Ilara's scalp, rooting themselves into her head like living hair. Ilara turned to face her stepsisters. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. When Lyra looked into Ilara's eyes, she froze, not just in fear, but in body. Her skin turned grey and hard. Within seconds, she had become a statue of stone. Monster! Nessa and Corin screamed. They fled the house in terror. Ilara looked at herself in the mirror. The serpents hissed and writhed atop her head. Her once beautiful white hair was gone, replaced by a crown of living snakes. "I'm a monster," she sobbed. Overcome with horror, Ilara ran from the village. She sprinted back into the thornwood, all the way to the tower, and climbed to the top. She collapsed in the corner, covering her head with a cloth, weeping uncontrollably. Below, she heard a familiar whistle, *woo-woo-wee star. "Ilara!" Taiwo called. "Let down your hair so I can climb up." "I have no hair." Ilara cried out, her voice breaking. "Go away. I'm a monster. If you look at me, you'll turn to stone." But Taiwo did not leave. Using all his strength, he climbed the tower wall with his bare hands. He pulled himself through the window and stood before her. "Don't look at me," Ilara begged, hiding her face. Taiwo knelt beside her. "When I was a hunter, you didn't see my rags. You saw my heart. Now let me see yours." He gently pulled away the cloth covering her face. The serpents hissed and bared their fangs, but Taiwo did not flinch. He looked straight into Ilara's glowing eyes. He did not turn to stone. "Why aren't you turning to stone?" Ilara gasped. "Because true love cannot be cursed," Taiwo said softly. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. The moment his lips touched hers, the serpents stopped hissing. One by one, they began to shrink and soften. They transformed back into long, flowing strands of white hair, more beautiful than ever before. Ilara's eyes returned to normal. The curse was broken. Prince Taiwo took Ilara to the palace of Ireel, where they were wed in a grand ceremony. But Taiwo did not forget the cruelty of the stepsisters. He sent his guards to Ashara to retrieve the stone statue of Lyra. They placed it at the entrance of the palace gates, with a wooden plaque that read, ***, here stands a girl whose heart was made of stone. Now her body is stone too. ***. As for Nessa and Corin, they were not allowed wealth or comfort. To atone for their cruelty, they were made to work as palace servants. Every morning, as they passed through the gates to begin their chores, they had to look at their sister frozen in stone, a permanent reminder that hatred only brings ruin. Ilara and Prince Taiwo lived in joy and peace. Ilara's white hair remained long and magical, and she used her influence to ensure that every person in the kingdom, no matter how different they looked, was treated with love and kindness. Augun and Adana moved into the palace, where they lived in comfort for the rest of their days, grateful that the river goddess had indeed given them a special child. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this story, please kindly subscribe, share, like and comment. The sun does not ask the moon for permission to shine, and the river does not stop flowing because someone throws a stone. If you spend your days digging a pit for another, you are only building a grave for your own joy. A heart of gold will always find a crown, but a heart of stone will turn to rock. Love sees the soul. Hate only sees the surface. Be like the silk, soft, strong, and beautiful from within. ***.